Good afternoon and welcome to IFC webinars. Today's presentation on how to manage staff shortages with scheduling challenges arise. This is a great presentation, a great opportunity, and we're glad to have our presenters today. Today, of course, as always with IFC, please make sure that your speakers are turned up. We're broadcasting our presentation today with voice over internet protocol technologies through your computer speakers and headsets. Have them fully turned up and volume ready to go. Audience microphones have been muted for this presentation. If you have any questions or technical difficulties, please contact IFC at webinars@ifc.org or via the chat function, which we'll be monitoring throughout today's presentation. And again, this is a great opportunity to share your experiences. As we go through the chat and the Q&A, you'll note that we do have some handouts for today, and we will be sharing the presentation at the end of the event. But up in your upper right-hand corner of your viewable screen is the chat, questions and answers, as it's called, Q&A. Polls and handouts are also there. We encourage you to share any comments in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll definitely be interjecting those throughout today. I'm your host today with the International Association of Fire Chiefs. My name is Richard Miller, retired fire officer out of Fairfax and currently staff member for assisting with webinars. As we move forward in our presentation today, I'd like to first thank our sponsors, Vector Solutions, for this great opportunity to have this personal discussion about staffing shortages. And it's really going to be a great opportunity to talk about these things. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt and let Matt introduce himself as we start today. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Richard. Again, Matt Schrantz. I'm one of the solutions engineers and subject matter experts with Vector Solutions. A little bit about my background. I come to Vector with 21 years of experience in the fire and EMS industry, still an active paramedic and participate in the industry as an instructor and firefighter paramedic. Throughout that, I have obtained my accreditation as a chief fire officer and spent a significant amount of time in my career in combination departments dealing with staffing challenges and how to overcome them. And with that, let's turn it over to my colleague, Brad Lyon. He can introduce himself.
Yep. Good morning. My name is Brad Lyon. I spent 17 years in the fire service as a career firefighter. When the scheduling platform itself was in its startup stage, it used to be called CrewSense. I was the very first employee of CrewSense, so I wore many hats. I've been with the system since the beginning. And then once we were obtained by Vector Solutions, I migrated over to become a solutions engineer as well, and a subject matter expert, more specifically in the scheduling platform. So I'm the guy that you talk to when it comes to the deep-weeded questions of what the system can and can't do, how it can benefit you and your department, make your job easier so you can spend less time in scheduling and more time out doing things like training, running calls, business inspections, and all the things that come along with the job that you do today.
So as we said, today we're going to discuss how to manage your staffing shortages when those scheduling challenges arise. And we know that this is a very deep-rooted problem across the fire service anywhere in the United States. And so we're going to try and help guide you and have a great discussion today on how to overcome them. Before we get started in that discussion, we do want to touch base on a couple of topics regarding Vector Solutions. And with the Vector Suite, we have the amazing opportunity to provide all of you a couple different spectrums of our platform that, again, are included in that suite. And the first of that is going to be our LMS, formerly known as Target Solutions. I know a lot of people still refer to it as that. But now we have this amazing product that's also incorporated with that called Evaluations Plus. So with our LMS or Target Solutions, it gives us the opportunity to track and record all of that training and even deliver that training, whether it's with our 450 hours of fire-based training or our 250 hours of CAPC accredited training. But we also now have the ability with Evaluations Plus to not only deliver that training, but measure and test that skill performance, whether it's your annual employee reviews, daily observation reports, all the way down into delivering skill-based assessments and testing. with that Evaluations Plus piece. We also can provide risk management performance with our LMS platform to be able to measure those ISO and record those ISO tracking and training, policy management, making sure all of our employees are properly trained in those department and organizational policies and accountability, as well as specific items when you get into our drivers training programs, maybe acting officer, company officer training programs as well. Then we also offer our operational readiness, and that's going to be our Vector Check It. And that's where we really dive into our asset and inventory management. And then lastly, and most importantly, today's topic, and that's our workforce management, because none of those topics can be successful if we don't have people to fill those shoes. And that's with our Vector scheduling. And we're going to talk today about how to overcome those scheduling challenges. Just briefly, we're going to touch, if you have any questions regarding Vector Solutions on any of our platforms, you could contact our sales team at sales@targetsolutions.com or visit our website at vectorsolutions.com. So, staffing challenges, and how do these staffing challenges sound familiar? We know that, like I said, more than ever today across the country, all agencies, both from a combination perspective into a full-time, solely full-time perspective, are dealing with how can we minimize our budgets and those budget shortfalls, but increase our productivity and our staffing to make sure all of our positions are filled. And we know that that can oftentimes be very time consuming, especially when employees start taking time off or coming into the summer months. A lot of that vacation time is going to be used. But not only that vacation time, but we also have challenges that we're faced with special events. And that becomes a tricky part of our staffing to make sure that all of those events get properly staffed and that overall we provide the community the service that they deserve and that the service we've committed to as fire service and public safety professionals. We're also going to talk today about how we can avoid personnel grievances. We can also cover those inadequate coverages and minimize our liability and risk exposure globally. Simplifying our streamlined process through Vector scheduling gives us the ability to manage our schedules on the fly from your mobile device. And we're going to cover that and show how simply, whether you're the newest firefighter in the organization or you're the staffing administrator for your agency, how you can function on the fly from your mobile device anytime, anywhere. And we're also going to show you how we can fill that overtime automatically and minimize that time sitting in front of your computer, picking up the cell phone and just really spending a lot of your day when we know our time is valuable. We want to minimize that. So as we get started here, Brad, let's dive in and let's talk about, so we know that any given day we have minimum requirements that we have to fill on our schedule. And some of those challenges get presented with how do we ensure that we have qualified people to fill those spots and all of those seats within our agency. And we want to know that if today a company officer, our captain or lieutenant assigned to that particular assignment is off, that it gets filled properly so we have no failures or gaps in our staffing. And so as we get into that topic, how simply can Vector scheduling show us and benefit all of these agencies out there to really just simplify that staffing need and making sure that we have minimum standards met within an agency?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Just of one of my demo sites as far as scheduling is concerned. Being able to keep everything digitally tracked in the system and being able to monitor that from the app on your phone, which we'll show in a minute here, really makes your job a lot easier. Anywhere you have internet connection, because we're all cloud-based, you have access to the platform. So you don't necessarily have to be in front of a computer sitting there to perform the tasks at hand. Minus running reports in the system, everything can be done from the mobile app on your phone. that can be done from the scheduler itself. And when you talk about making sure that people have the right credentials to fill those positions, come with things like qualifiers. So if they can't meet that position, they can't be put in those positions to be working. So we make sure that we're staffing with the correct individuals. And just some great features we'll kind of dive into here a little bit. It's just some things like the ease and the use of the platform itself. So things like if this person on engine 2, Leanne, calls in sick for the day, I, as an admin, can simply grab that person and drag them over to the employee time off area. Simply enter why they're going to be gone. Maybe I need to add some notes for admin to be able to see, and save that time off entry. So it's really just that simple. And the fact that whether you're doing it from your phone, a tablet, an MDT, the computer itself, it was that easy. A person calls in sick, I drag them over to the employee time off area. And now I see that I do have a staffing shortage that I need to fill. And then we can get into a little bit more of that as we go through the process of how to use a scheduler itself. So do you think would be a good time now to go ahead and pull up the app itself and to kind of go over the features of that and how that works?
Absolutely. And while you're doing that and transitioning over, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you regarding you moving people around and putting them into vacation time, how do we accomplish privacy within the Vector's scheduling platform to ensure we don't have those grievances? Maybe the privacy reason for why that person called off. Can everybody in the platform see those notes, or is that really based on the permissions in the system to only certain people who need to see those detailed specifics can have access to that?
Yeah, that's absolutely, that's a great question. So everything in the system is based on what you can see and what you can do. So permission driven. So when you go in and you have maybe those sensitive time off types, like maybe maybe if it's COVID or if it's administrative leave or anything that's sensitive material that you want to prevent a grievance from being filed because you don't want everybody to see it, only the super admins, then you can go into your admin settings and you can actually mask those time off types so that only super admins or anyone that has that permission is able to see that information, and then all the other people, including the end users any below that do not have those permissions, will not see that. They'll just see the person is off and that the time off is masked, and that's it. That's all they'll see. So for myself in perspective, if I was off on a time sensitive time off type, I obviously don't want obviously in a department people know things, but I don't want it being visible on the screen. Then that time off type can be masked. So only my super admin or my administrators above me will know what that time off type is. And people that don't have that permission, again, won't be able to see it. So that's a great thing about the system itself, is all those permission driven opportunities, what you can see and what you can do to eliminate having those, violating collective bargaining agreements or grievances that people can file based on those time sensitive materials.
Great information, Brad. I really appreciate that because we know that you're 100% right. We know that firehouses, a lot of information gets passed around, even unintentionally at times. But we want to make sure that we meet all of the department policies, especially those CBAs that are out there, and make sure that if somebody does want something kept private, that we most certainly honor that. So great information. And I really like how you presented that it's very simply we can just drag and drop people around because we know dealing with staffing on a daily basis, we want something that's going to be quick and easy and affordable to us, that we can just jump in really quick, make those scheduling adjustments, and get going back on our day, because time is precious to us, bottom line. And as typically in most organizations, these are the admin staff, maybe in a little bit larger agency, it's your battalion chiefs. But regardless, those battalion chiefs, they still have those calls to go on, and they still have plenty of duties to do throughout the day, and making sure their staffing is affordable and met to that minimum standard is really important. So I appreciate you showing us that.
Absolutely, 100%.
So you started to talk about the mobile application, and you really had me intrigued there, because we know that, as I just said, these battalion chiefs, these admin chiefs, they get going on the fly. They got a lot of things going on. Their time's precious throughout the day, but we know that we're not always sitting in our office readily available to a computer. So how easy is it to use Vector scheduling out there in the mobile world, and being able just to get out of our office and address those staffings, whether we're visiting other stations, whether we're in meetings, whether we're cleaning up from a run and we need to address something. How easy is it to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so again, whatever permissions are given in the system to whether you're an end user, the newest guy, or you are, the top level administrator, whatever permissions you have in the system itself will dictate what you can do from the app. So as an end user, things like I can view the roster for the day, I can request a trade, I can view my next upcoming shifts. Some things we're going to talk about here in a little bit too are like time offs, which are crucial when you've been working a lot, to make sure that you're definitely taking that into consideration and using your time off wisely so you have those days to recover both mentally and physically. Things like sign up boards. Whoops, my bad. Sorry about that. Sign up boards for special events so that when things go out, you can simply be in the grocery store on the fly. And if it's something that you think you might want to sign up for overtime, like say maybe a football standby or some type of a sign up board for a training event, by all means, you can do that directly from your phone. Again, you don't have to be in front of a computer. Now, everybody can see the callback board there. That's the big dollar sign. That's the money maker right there. That's the one where, you're going to get that sweet money. And so we put the dollar sign in there to indicate that for that callback board. So if there's a callback that goes out for an overtime shift or for, a callback to backfill the station, if there's a greater alarm incident going on, instead of having to, answer your phone or respond to a text message, you can just open that up, click that callback button board, and it's just a big green button to accept or a big red button to deny. Now, icons will be on the app at all times, but if they're ones that you don't have access to, they'll be grayed out, so you cannot go into. So those are the checks and balances, which makes it really nice for admin to be able to do what they can do. End users and lower level users, permission driven down to only what they can do. So the admin can actually open up the left-hand side and they can do things like make scheduling changes. They can perform automated callbacks, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. They can approve or deny time offs and trades. Again, end users can go in and request time off. As an admin, I can go and I can see pertinent employee information. Maybe I don't directly have a person's direct phone number. I need to contact them and I'm out in the field. I can access that employee profile area. So just a lot of great opportunity. Again, everything you can do from the platform, you can perform from the app minus running reports, which you wouldn't do anyway. But it gives you that great versatility from your phone, because everybody's got those smartphones out there these days, to be able to do things on the fly, whether you're an end user and you're in the grocery store to accept a callback, or maybe you're on a greater alarm incident and you need to do an employee recall, can all be done from the app on your phone, or again, wherever you have internet access to access the system.
It's a pretty powerful tool there. And you talked about those sign up boards and regarding those special events. And as I mentioned early on, we're getting into the season where we're going to have those festivals that we have to fill, CPR classes, football games, special events. So correct me if I'm wrong, that the sign up board, you can even go as far as determining how many spots you need to fill with that, so that you can really dive deep into the weeds there. And fill all of those positions very specifically, correct?
Absolutely. You can come in or you can call the sign-up board whatever you want. As far as the event itself, you can choose the work time. Most of the time it's overtime. Sometimes based on the event, they offer that comp time, which a lot of people like to bank or take in lieu of overtime, because that's extra vacation hours that they can bank. Usually most departments do 1.5 to every 1 hour worked, which is really great, because if you're running low on time off time, you may not necessarily need the overtime money, but you might need to be building up your bank so that you can take that time off for that, again, that mental health and wellness time. Once you select that work type and anything associated with it, and the start and end times and how many employees you need, you can actually limit that down. And so once you create groups and lists for like callbacks and things like that, instead of having to type everybody's name in individually, you can say, okay, this event, I only need paramedics. Well, now I typed in just PA and there's my PA list. and it's going to tell me everyone that's going to be contacted. Now, it is a first come, first served basis, but through the sign up board, but it's a great way to send out a message and detailed information for that. And then once you save that, the sign up, it will go out and we'll start offering that opportunity to the people that are limited to that paramedic list, if that's all you need. And then once you come in, you'll be able to actually see oh, I don't have any in this one. I apologize. But you would have all of your events that would be stacked up in here in your account, and up into including showing archived events if you need to go in and retrieve any of that information from past events. Once that event is been scheduled and people have accepted the event and it closes based on how many people you need, automatically in the crew scheduler, without having to do anything else, below the employee time off area and this miscellaneous area, there'll be a box that will say, whatever that special sign up event will be and who's working that event and all that pertinent information that's tied to that event and that person's profile. And again, permission driven. So what you can see and what you can do. As an end user, I might see that person in there as working, but I may not know what information. I'm not going to be able to do what I like to call hover to discover, like I can over like Kara's name here as an admin. I can see that the last time that person's schedule was modified and all pertinent information, obviously as a permission. If I don't have that permission, I can't see that information. So you can really keep it down to making sure only the people that have the eyes to be able to see that information see it. Other people that don't cannot.
Amazing there. It really is. And that I can really see some benefits as to how using those sign up boards and just really being able to see it on your daily schedule, really will enhance the staffing and overall operational readiness of your organization. Looking over there in your column one, I see, our friend Tim is the battalion chief today. So now we fill that overtime with that sign up board for today. He doesn't have to go searching around. Not only was it easy for him to create that sign up and get that position filled with some flexible resources, but now he doesn't have to waste this time throughout his day trying to find, hey, who did sign up for that? It's right here on his actual crew scheduler. So pretty amazing things there to really simplify the overall, like I said, the key operational readiness for all of our agencies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some other things too, we can talk about, we can delve into here as well. I'm going to jump to tomorrow since today's already happened. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Matt King and I'm just going to drop him over to employee time off area. He's called in sick for the day, and I'm going to go ahead and save that entry since I happen to be the battalion chief for the day. And now I've got some things I need to think about. I've got a spot I need to fill. I don't have anybody that's available. I don't have anybody that's signed up. I don't have anybody I can move around as extra staffing or that's qualified to fill that position. So now what am I going to do? Well, that's where the automation in the system is really amazing. And I love this part because I wish back in the day in the fire service when I was in, we would have had this opportunity and I wasn't have to be in the station or on the cell phone, picking up a call, going through a notebook, trying to get a position filled. As a staffing individual, I can simply come in and say, okay, I've got nobody to move around. I've got nobody that's available. I need to perform an automated callback through the system. Now, what that means is you can have as many callback lists in the system as you want. You can name them whenever you want. People can be on multiple lists if they can fill multiple roles. So if I'm on a firefighter, but I can also fill in as a driver operator, I can be on both lists so I get fair and equitable opportunity for overtime. As a staffing officer, I can come in and say, okay, I have a captain's position on engine 2 that I really need to fill for the day, and I have no other option. I'm going to go ahead and click on the open slot. I'm going to come down to the bottom of my screen where it says fill with callback, and that's going to take me to my callback preview window. Now, this is really great because you can see that it's associated the assignment and the position, the assignment times to work. It's got notes that I can add to in the system as well. I just need to pick a fill deadline time that I want to fill that by. So no later than, say, 5 p.m. Now, if the callback gets accepted and it will close after the acceptance, it doesn't wait till that deadline time. I'm just saying that's the maximum deadline I want it to be at.
And that would be for voluntary overtime, right?
Volunteer, or if it's you're needing to fill that position for someone that's in time off.
Okay.
You might be calling back for a volunteer position. You might be calling back for a paid position. So however it's going to work best for your department. And then based on how far out the call out is, I can dictate to be minutes, hours, days. It might be 2 weeks out, so I might give those people a little bit more time to accept that callback. All I need to do is pick the appropriate list that I want to contact from and how I track my rankings. And that means, so if your department is along the lines of you track rankings based on Rolodex style, where you move to the bottom when you accept the callback, or maybe you're an hours based, which is least to most, the system recognizes those and ranks the list accordingly based on people who are available to work. Now, by design, the system knows not to contact people that are currently on duty in time off, unless you allow people, say, on vacation or Kelly days, to be contacted for overtime and they can come back. If someone's worked over their max consecutive hours, like 72 hours, and they need a break, or if someone's just simply gone to their personal calendar and has made themselves unavailable. Now, by design, the system is meant to look at all those parameters, but you as an admin obviously can override anything. So let's say that you're doing a callback and you want to include the people that have made themselves unavailable. Well, they're still going to get contacted. And you can see down here the excluded users and why they're excluded. Now, when the callback goes out, the person at the top, Leanne, is going to be contacted first. If Leanne denies the shift immediately, it's not going to wait that full 5 minutes. It's then going to move to Kenton. Now, Kenton accepts the shift. The callback closes. The rankings update automatically. Kenton is sent another notification and an email. The person who sent the callback out is notified. The scheduler is updated, and that person's personal calendar is updated. So, I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. I mean, once it's done, it's done. Everybody's notified. The scheduler's updated. Everything's done. There's nothing. I mean, could you imagine back in the day if we would have had something like this and you could actually perform this from your phone?
And you can get up and go about your day and you don't have to worry about it.
And you can monitor it from the app on your phone while you're doing your job. I mean, it really doesn't get much easier than that with the automated callback system to be able to fill those positions needed to make sure that your staffing levels are at minimum of what you need for the day, to make sure that everybody stays safe and is able to run calls directly, and not having any staffing shortages to obviously create a situation where it could put someone's life in danger because you don't have enough personnel. So between the scheduler and that callback module, that just makes it easy for everyone.
Yeah, it's great stuff, Brad. And now what would happen in the case you talked about how if somebody accepts it, it ends that callback period. But what happens when you put that callback period in? Is there a way to provide some mandatory or forcing overtime if somebody goes through that entire list and that callback isn't filled for whatever reason? Is there a way in the system that we can offer some type of list that people can not only see where they lie on that list, but also be able to fill that operational readiness by having that backup list or that force list?
Yeah, absolutely. So some other things that can be done. Let's say that you've run or exhausted your efforts with the automated callback portion. Obviously, no one's taken the callback, no one's taken it, and you've got to fill that position. Now you come to a point where now you're going to have to force hire somebody. Now, obviously, even though I'm not on my regular work day, I could be out of town. I could be with a sick family member. And to use the automation, that would violate a collective bargaining agreement if you were forcing me back because you don't know if I'm available. But there is still some great automation to this. So I can click on the open slot. I can create force hire lists in the system that I can track along with my callback rankings to say, I need to open up this force hire agenda. I'm going to come in based on however my department uses force hire I'm going to use last date forced because a lot of departments use it that way. And from my screen here, you can see some indicators like, oddly, why is that person grayed out? Well, I can click on that person and, that person's already working, so I can't force that person to the scheduler. Oh, look, Brad's up on the chopping block. So I get a hold of Brad and I say, hey, Brad, guess what? I've made contact with you. You're up on the next force hire, you're coming to work. Great. So now that person has been contacted and you can leave some notes in there, you have all their contact, their history information based on that force hire. But the most important part is you can see right here, force employee to that engine assignment. That's the crucial point, is you're saying, okay, I can force directly. And once I do that, Brad will then drop to the bottom of the force hire list, so he won't be on the chopping block for the next force hire out there. And there's several different ways to track the force hire, whether you want to track it based on last date hired, maybe more of on a manual basis or a timestamp basis, or even to follow your callback rankings in order to be able to do that. So lots of opportunity and versatility within the scheduler here to do those performances. Again, yes, there is more of a manual process when you have to pick up the phone, but that's your last ditch effort. You're letting the system do the workhorse for you. And what I wanted to show you too really quick, Matt, while we're talking about that is, okay, I was talking about a single list of contacting people, but what if I want to call multiple lists in one callback and have it try to exhaust its efforts that way before I have to go to force hire? Not a problem. You can have your single one-off call out hire lists. You can also create what we call a tiered effect, and you can call it whatever you want. I happen to call mine all call overtime. But as we know in staffing, officers and above cost a lot more money in a budgetary process than lower level firefighters do. So I'm trying to fill a firefighter position for the day. I would like that first tier to contact the firefighters. If that tier goes unfilled, I would then like it to move to the next tier, whatever I've called it. So mine happens to be engineer, and then captain, and so on and so forth, and up. You can have as many tiers as you want. I just have 3 in there. But again, instead of calling one list, maybe I pick a tiered list to contact in succession. So before I have to go to that force hire, I have exhausted all my efforts with the automation of the system, that now I have to go to the last ditch manual process of, contacting somebody to get them to come in. But again, could you imagine having this back in the day where you could do this on the fly from your phone?
It's amazing. That would make things so much easier. Yeah, absolutely. It would make it just tremendously easier. So thank you for showing us that, and some powerful, amazing pieces of this platform that really can drive home again to minimize those gaps that we would have in staffing, and just reduce any headaches and pains that your agency would ever come across. Now we know. So I know you talked before about the callbacks and how we like that money sign, because it at the end of the day, it gives us that extra money. It gives us that overtime, and everybody loves that no matter what. But people also value their time off. And I know you mentioned before mental healthness and mental wellness, and that's a huge topic in the fire service across America today. And I really, you know what, I want to see if we can touch on how can vector scheduling provide the accountability and the accruals for our time offs, and being able to manage, especially when we're dealing with collective bargaining agreements, whether it's vacation time, sick time, but especially Kelly days, and how we can build those Kelly days in, whether they get to select them or it's an automatic default based on every certain number of days. Can you show us how that would work?
Absolutely. So let's start with the first part about talking about accruals and personal time off. Now, we all know that, everyone accrues time at a different rate, whether it's your line staff, whether it's your admin staff, whether it's your 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, office administration staff. And if you're going to have all those individuals in there, you can set up tracks for all those different accrual types. Now, any time off type that you create in the system will populate in this area for you to be able to turn on and or accumulate time. Now, if I come down here to the bottom and I click on military time, I've got that military leave, I've got that disabled. That's a government thing where if I go out on the National Guard, I get to come back when they say I get to come back. So I have that disabled. I can still request it, but it doesn't have to accrue any time. The same goes with, with a bereavement time. Have it disabled. Per FMLA, if I have a death in the family and it's in the immediate area, I get 3 days off. If I have to travel, I get 5. So those are disabled. But things like vacation, what people should always be taking more of when they have it in their account, that they need to monitor to get, work is good, but it's also good to get that rest period to come back and be refreshed for your next shift. So things like I can have as many line items in here as I want. They can accumulate on several different ways to do that. So in this one from 0 to 5, I've got it for 250 hours a year and 8 hours every pay period. I also have it to set to stop accruing at 500 hours. So what I like to call a use it or lose it. But a lot of departments will say, well, okay, well, that's great. Automatic accumulation, great. But what happens when Brad moves from 0 to 5 to 10? Not a problem. Up here in the toolbar where you see manage accrual tracks, that handles that situation directly. Once I create those years of service, I can create a line staff accrual track. And once Brad has a accrual start date and a hire date in his profile, and I attach this to him, throughout his career, if he stays in the line staff, it's going to move him from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and so on down the road. Now, if Brad promotes out of the line staff into like more of a battalion chief or maybe a Monday through Friday position in administration, you can just go into his profile and switch the tracks from one to the other, and it will follow accordingly and seamlessly without having to change anything else. So again, a great way for the system to automate and do those things for you so that you don't have to worry about that. Now, the other one is, let's say that Kelly days are for bidding. I get to bid for my Kelly days, and it's based on seniority. Not a problem. Run what we call an employee auction. It's kind of like fantasy football in the sense that once you come in and you set it up, you name the employees, and the auction itself give a brief description. You can choose which time off type you want to select. So we're going to select Kelly Day. I give the date ranges for the bids, usually for the next following year, and I determine my minimum staffing or maximum people off per day, which I can set exceptions for. I also say that, everybody in here gets to bid for so many bids based on how many Kelly days you get a year. Maybe there's an exceptional rule to somebody who's brand new. Maybe they get less, depending on how your department functions. I can add that as an exception. Now, obviously, that person's probably going to be at the bottom of the list and gets the last picks. But, that's how it is when you're the new guy on the totem pole. You select the bidding start and end times. You can actually even have a buffer of a wait or a pause period so people aren't getting contacted in the middle of the night when they're trying to sleep. And depending on how long the auction's going to run, the wait time between individuals could be minutes, hours, days. And then your default list of how you're going to set that up. Most people do it based on seniority, but you could use employee ID or last name. Now, again, once you set that and you set it up and you run it, people are going to be notified and give the opportunity to make their picks. If there's too many people off on a day that they wanted to pick, it's going to black it out. They're just going to have to basically pick another day. Now, if you do it that way with bidding that way, you can utilize the auction module. And once the auction module closes, everyone's notified, the scheduler's automatically updated, their personal calendar's updated, and the time off calendar's updated. So again, the automation takes over. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to go in and update anything manually. It's all done for you. Now, last but not least, if let's say that with the Kelly days, they already know when those Kelly days are going to be. And they're say, they happen like every 14 days. Let's go to next month since March is over today. And I'm going to say that, Brad has a Kelly day that starts today. And I need that to repeat every 14 days. Okay. So that says that Brad has a rotational cycle of his Kelly day, and I want that to repeat every 14 days. Once I click save and save there, now until I go in and adjust that schedule for Brad, he's always going to have his Kelly day every 14 days or whatever your designated rotation days on those scheduled Kelly days are. Now, obviously, last but not least, if they're sporadic and you don't know, I would say using the auction would be the best way to go about that. But last but not least, if you have to, you can go in and you can, obviously assign them through the calendar as well. But again, once you assign those on the calendar, it affects all the other part of the scheduler. It affects the days that they're normally be working. It updates their personal calendar. It updates the time off calendar. So again, automation is huge in here for what other parts of the scheduler it affects, whether it's a manual entry or it's a recurring entry that you've used in the system. Again, wow. I mean, I remember sitting around the table with 5 guys, and you were the low guy on the totem pole, and you had a piece of paper there with your days you wanted and your alternates in case you didn't get what you wanted. I mean, you probably remember that too, Matt, right?
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And it would always became frustrating, and not only that, the time commitment behind sitting back there and waiting for everybody else to get done and then waiting for your turn. This just simplifies it very simply there. So awesome information, Brad. So it kind of leads into my next discussion. So we saw how we can make that overtime and get scheduled for that overtime, and it leads us into our next important feature of being able to have that time off so we can enjoy ourselves outside of work. But how simple is it? Does all of this stuff that you've shown us today, does it go somewhere? Can you talk about how we can sync this with payroll vendors? A lot of agencies use a third party payroll vendor. How simple can we not only export all of this data out to know that we get paid appropriately? Because at the end of the day, we have to make sure to have happy employees, and to have happy employees, part of that is making sure they're paid on time. And not only to that perspective, but can the system determine and really grab all of that data? How much are they getting paid, and does those items adjust as we move up the food chain in our organization? And how easy is it to just really build that out and make sure that all of our especially when we talk about benefits, how all of that comes together and ends up in a report format?
Absolutely. So everything in the system when you're exporting for payroll is based on your work codes and subtypes and your time off codes and subtypes. All of that can be set up in your admin settings in the top toolbar next to your department's name. Once you go in and you set those up, so you have maybe Brad's working regular time, but he's a step-up captain for the day. Well, that's a lot of pertinent information, because if he's working as a step-up captain or whatever he's working that day, he's going to get compensated differently, and all that needs to come out in a detailed report, so that when that information goes into or gets exported out of the system for time and attendance for payroll, it's able to be uploaded into their system correctly, so they get compensated correctly. Now, we have a lot of different types of reports, but what we're really going to delve into is the exporting of the payroll data. Now, we have several different formats you can export out, whether it's a detailed Excel file. A lot of the people like to pull up the detailed Excel file, because it does give a great breakdown of the time period that you've picked that people have worked. And then at the bottom, it gives you totals for things that you can visually see before. But most departments, 99% of the departments out there that are using on a platform that are exporting out of the system for time and attendance and importing into them, is they're using this raw CSV file here. And the reason why that's so important is that raw CSV file can be fully customized to say, what do I need to pull out? What order do I need it to be in? So when I import that into my payroll, it matches up as what I like to call apples for apples. So the way that is so if once I click on raw CSV, I can come down to where you see a little gear cog down here that says set up CSV templates. I like to call them blueprints, but basically what you're saying is, and you can have as many as you want, I can say in here, under these drop down boxes, I can select to pull anything out of the system I want. This is what I need to pull out. This is the order I need it to be in. So you can maybe have minimal line items. You might have a lot of line items based on what your payroll software requires. Come down and click that save button. And that template is always available to you, because you never know. Maybe your line staff has a different template than your admin staff or your Monday through Friday people. But again, once you save all that information in those templates, you can then come to export payroll, and you can always come in here and you can say, okay, I need to select all employees. I need this date range. I need my raw CSV file, and in my drop down, I need to do my line staff. There's also advanced options down here as well. If you need to filter down, everything is on by default, but if you need to filter down, you could do that as well. Once that's done, I can also save it as a template. But when I hit that export button, all of my exports, whether it's a detailed Excel file, a PDF time card, a raw CSV file, or payroll summary, will populate over here on the right-hand side. which I can access at any moment, and then I can export that information out and into my payroll software. Now, for whatever reason, if you ran that's got the wrong dates or it's got the wrong time frame and you don't want that in there because other people have access to the export payroll data, I can hover over the top of that payroll or that export, and I can see a little red garbage can here. I can simply click that garbage can, and that report has been removed from the system. So if there was an error when making that export, again, we have a lot of departments out there using our platform. Then there's a lot of payroll softwares out there. So that raw CSV file is what's really crucial, because they know that there's exact needs from that payroll software and order that it needs to be in. We even have the option too, if there's something that you don't find in one of those drop-down boxes, we actually have the option to create an extra field, and those can be in there, then those can be export, which is nice. So like I had a department that I recently did an on-site training with, and for their export to Tyler Munis, they just needed 2 custom fields that were not in some information in that drop-down box. And I believe it was just code numbers or something like that. We were able to create those extra fields, put those in people's profiles, and then when they set that export up, they had those extra fields available. So when they imported that into Tyler Munis, they were able to get those apples for apples lined up so people were getting compensated correctly. And like you said, Matt, that is the most important thing, not only with scheduling and making sure that everything's up and running and people's mental health and wellness is good with their personal time off, but making sure that they're getting compensated correctly so that they don't have to question their paycheck when they get it. I mean, I can tell you this right now. When I first started in the fire service, the lieutenant that I worked for, the very first paycheck I got, he goes, "Oh, you got to check that paycheck. They might have shorted you. You got to add your hours up." I got really tired of doing that. I was like, man, this is dumb, you know? But it was true. You'd find errors in the system because everything was pen and paper or Excel spreadsheets. Things got missed. This allows you to export that information out, how you set it up, the same way every time, so that nothing is missed and people are getting compensated correctly.
And you really hit that hard there. One of the most important things through my career was you got to make sure we take care of the troops. And in order to get them excited to come to work, and I say excited because we want them to know their place and what they truly mean to not only our organizations, but to the overall community they serve, because the more they mean to the community and the department, the better they're going to provide service. And with that, it just is going to simplify and make all of these back end processes for the administration to make sure their employees are taken care of that much more enhanced. And that's really key there. We did have a question come in, Brad, and to kind of circle back when we talked about our callbacks, and it's a really great question talking about in today's world. We know that there's people that are always just enticed to grab that overtime and work any bit that they can. But we also know, unfortunately, that there's people out there that they just they have special events in their family coming up. It's summertime. They don't want to get that overtime. How can the vector scheduling number comes from the same number every time, so they can see it in their caller ID, but is there a way to ensure that they get forced if they're dodging that phone call from you? Is there a way in the system that notifications get sent, that there's a log in the system to say, hey, this notification was sent, and that schedule was updated, so that people can't say, you know what, I didn't get that phone call? Is there a backup in process behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the callback, unfortunately, in this platform that I have set up, because I have multiple platforms, I don't have a callback in here, but that is going to be in your callback history that you can track if that's what you're looking for. So you can always go in and see. You can pull up the callback history. You can open up the status of those callbacks. You can see that in the system, it either did or did not make contact, and maybe they have a bad number in there. Maybe they were out of cell range and they weren't able to receive that call during the callback. All that information is stored in the callback history, and we'll be able to see that. So if I came in and said, hey, I didn't get contact for that overtime and I really wanted it, well, let's go look at the callback history. Let's go see if it made contact with your phone, because that's going to be the direct way to avoid that he said, she said stuff. And you can go in there and you can say, oh, no, look, here it is in history. You were contacted at this time. You chose the mobile app and you did not respond during the call period. So you did get contacted. So if that's kind of answering that question, obviously, again, there's no way to automatically force anybody because, again, you don't know if that person's, not in town or a sick family member. But if they're complaining that they are not getting contacted, there's several different ways to go in and assure them that they are getting contacted, whether you're looking in their profile and it says that they're made callback eligible, that they're on the appropriate lists that are going to be contacted, and the callback history itself to go down and say who was contacted in what order in the time frame and before the callback closed and who either did accept it or did not accept it. So I'm hoping that kind of answers the question on that question itself. If not, I'd like to get a little bit more elaboration on what's being looked for.
No, and I just want to add one thing. So I think a lot of this stems back to behaviors in an organization. And I think it brings up a great opportunity for discussion on that, because one of the factors we know that in any organization, we're not in a perfect world. And we're going to have those people that are go-getters, and we're going to have those people that just, like I said before, they don't want to work, or maybe they're avoiding those callbacks. And so one of the experiences that I had that really stood out and resonated in that was when we talk about the fine-tuning programming of vector scheduling, you have the ability, and one of the things that we did was we used to only move people on the list if they accepted. And I was always viewed it as, I don't want to punish people. So as we talk about that, and we talk about how they can move on those particular lists, one of the things that I never was a believer in was punishing people. And we were able to change behaviors by simply doing something. And that was, hey, you're going to move on that list if you accept the overtime, obviously. But I don't want to punish you, so I'm not going to move you if you deny it. But how can I change that behavior? I want you to at least tell me you don't want to work. And so with changing that behavior, what we did was we selected under that callback response there in the rule settings to say, you know what? If we make that phone call, we make that notification, and you don't answer, you're moving on that list. If you accept it, you're obviously clearly moving, but you at least have to answer the phone and pick the phone up. And what we saw was a behavioral trend change in our organization, because people started buying in, saying, you know what? They don't care if I say no. I'm not going to get punished if I say no, but they at least want me to answer and participate and be a part of the team. And it goes back to that whole last word, being a part of teamwork in our organization to be successful in the fire service. So that was just one example that I wanted to add in there on my experience in staffing, that we were able to overcome that challenge in our organization when people were dodging those phone calls and dodging trying to get mandated. Is how can we alter that behavior, and how can we improve this? And that was simply by just saying, you know what, answer the phone. We're not going to ding you if you say no, but if you don't answer the phone and you refuse to, and you're dodging those phone calls, now you're going to get moved to the bottom of the list regardless. Right. And that was just, like I said, one experience that I had to be able to, really use it as an organizational change and to improve that behavior in our employees.
Absolutely. And all that, again, can be set up in there. And like you said, to change that mindset of, hey, look, I'm not going to penalize you, but just pick up the phone. So at least I know you're answering that callback, or, through the app, at least I want to know that at least you're aware of it. You just decided you just didn't want to work. So, and then you can also track in the rankings too. You can see when the last time someone accepted a callback, and you can say, why is this person not accepting callbacks? Maybe it's a conversation you need to have. Maybe they are having mental health or wellness issues, and that maybe that's another way to say, well, maybe I need to do something to step up and help these people, that to make it so when they come to work, they're not loathing it, and they're not wanting to be there, because it is a crucial job and they need to be on their A game when they're at work.
Absolutely.
Matt, Brad, this is Richard again. I just want to remind you we're getting close to the end here, and this has been a great discussion and some really good key points about positive atmosphere and culture of the organization, and ensuring the positive mental health for all of the presenters. Are there any key things you want to cover before we sort of wind this down for today?
Absolutely. I just like to wrap up. And first off, I want to thank each and every one of you for spending some time with us today. It's been an honor and a privilege to take an opportunity to talk about today's challenges in the fire service with my fellow brothers and sisters out there across the country. And with that, I just want to use some examples. So out of Dunedin Fire Department in Florida, our friends and partners over there, we have been struggling. One of their lieutenants said, we've been struggling with meeting overtime levels and staffing needs for the Blue Jays events. So now they can utilize that mobile app to communicate open shifts to help get the coverage that they need. And it really resonated to us because, like I said, during the presentation and discussion, that mobile app is a very powerful and easy to use tool that we provide, and it's not any additional charges. So that comes just a part of the platform. It's free to download from the Apple or Android mobile application stores, and it just really enhances the power to be able to staff and manage your organizations. And then lastly, out of Alabama, our friends over there said in the past, the staff did not have the visibility in overtime scheduling, so no one knew where they fell in a ranking. Now they can see their rank and catch mistakes if they happen. And that came out of our special projects officer, Blake Squirrels, like I said, out of Tuscola Fire Rescue in Alabama. And it really, these 2 points just really drive home what we talked about today and how to enhance and overcome those staffing woes and challenges that your organization may accomplish. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Richard.
Thank you both, Matt, Brad. This has been a great discussion. I think we've had quite a few questions come in. Again, any of the ones that we did not answer today, we'll definitely capture and put those out back to you to try to answer them directly to the people who submitted. And again, there are some handouts to the participants that you can download, and we'll be posting the recording of this on the IFC webpage after we complete everything. There's been some really good discussions. Only shows there's need for more discussions just like this, and hoping to provide some great solutions back out to a lot of the greater fire service. And we definitely appreciate Vector's efforts here as the sponsor of today's event. And this has again just been more of a casual conversation about a tool that can be used in the station or multiple stations, large organizations to help provide a better working environment for all participants. And that's, I think, the real key today is great to be a firefighter, and it's great to work in a great place, and having the simple tools that make life daily life a lot easier really is awesome. Again, the upcoming events for the International Association of Fire Chiefs, a real unique opportunity to go to Canada this year with a Community Risk Reduction Leadership Conference with Fire Life Safety Section. That's coming up May 24th and 26th with the Fire Life Safety Group, and that's pretty exciting. Full speakers list there. The Hazmat Conference in June in Baltimore. Again, we're back in person. So again, exciting opportunity there, and a great time to meet hazmat experts from all around the country that are coming up. Fire Rescue Med, which will be a virtual experience July 12th. So a little midsummer interruption there, but a great opportunity again to gain some real valued knowledge. Some great projects underway at IFC that go with the EMS section, such as the National EMS Needs Assessment and the Medical Director's Handbook are underway there too. Fire Rescue International, August 24th and 26th. We're back in San Antonio. Just a great city to go visit. If you've never been there before, I definitely would strongly recommend you go do that. And then new this year is the IFC's Technology Summit that's coming up in October in Irving, Texas. Our IFC Tech Council is the sponsor of this, and this will be a great event. New companies sharing high-tech technology events that'll be bringing direct information about what they're doing. So from locator technology to biometrics, wearable devices to tools just like what Vector's talked about today, the newer technologies that are out there that can really help again make the fire service a better place. And then closing out November is our IFC Symposium in the Sun in Clearwater. If you've never been to the Symposium in the Sun with the Volunteer Combination Officers section, it's a great event, a great time to unwind, very targeted, total group presentations. and it's a very enjoyable time to get some great information. The IFC, again, we've recorded this, and it'll be posted to the IFC webpage for you to view in future times and share with others. And again, on behalf of the International Association, I'm Richard Miller, and I'd like to thank Brad and the whole Vector team, and just a great great presentation, and we really look forward to continuing to work with Vector and all the projects that we do. So, Brad or Matt, anything last you want to say? Or
no, like I said before, it was a pleasure to be with all of you today. Richard, yourself, and Dan in the background, great working with you. And I hope everybody stays safe and take care of yourselves out there.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And please enjoy your day and be safe out there.
Have a great day.